Hello and welcome back to Kilmainham Jail for another one of our Kilmainham Jail on lockdown videos. Today we're doing part 2 of our series on the Invincibles, and we're actually back here in Stonebreakers Yard. It's a bit funny to be here, particularly at this time of year, and not be talking about the 1916 Rising, but we're actually going to talk about its association with the Invincibles, and in particular the story of this gate. Because in some of the contemporary newspaper reports there's a illustration of a police wagon coming through this gate, presumably bringing the Invincibles back from their trial in Green Street Courthouse. And today we're very much going to concentrate on how Inspector John Mallon, who was the police officer in charge of the investigation, how he used this building in many ways to crack the case within the walls of Kilmainham Jail. And one of the things he did was he arranged for the cab driven by Miles Kavanagh, one of the two getaway drivers, to be brought here in Kilmainham Jail. And Miles Kavanagh was brought out to the yard, and he was told to get up on the cab and start driving it around the courtyard in a circle. And as he drove around, he noticed that Inspector Mallon was standing in the middle of the yard with Skin the Goat, or James Fitzharris, the other getaway driver, a fellow cab driver, but the two men did not get on at all. And Inspector Mallon made sure to give the impression that whatever Skin the Goat was telling him was very, very interesting indeed. And he looked completely enthralled by what Skin the Goat was saying. As it turned out, it was nothing relevant to the case, but that's not what Miles Kavanagh thought. And then at a certain point, Mallon asked that Miles Kavanagh get down and that Skin the Goat drive this coach around the yard, but on this occasion he didn't talk to Miles Kavanagh at all. Inspector Mallon was an incredibly skilled police officer and investigator, and one of the things he's really skilled at in all these accounts is he's very skilled sometimes at not saying anything and not talking to people who are anxious to confess, because it would seem by this stage Miles Kavanagh was willing to confess and inform against his comrades. Now, Mallon was aware of this, and he arranged yet another set piece. He arranged that Miles Kavanagh will be sent to the doctor in the infirmary at the same time as Peter Carey. Peter Carey wasn't directly involved in the Phoenix Park assassinations, but he was the brother of James Carey, the main leader of the group. And I haven't been able to altogether work out where the infirmary was located at the time. I think it was probably somewhere in this central block still. There's a later infirmary in a separate building in another part of the complex. But anyway, Peter Carey and Miles Kavanagh, they're both waiting in a corridor just outside the doctor's surgery and our infirmary. And Mallon had arranged for one of the panels of the door to be removed and replaced with a perforated piece of zinc. And it looked like it was just kind of a ventilation panel, but he was listening to everything they said, and they spoke apparently quite freely about what had happened in the Phoenix Park on the 6th of May 1882 and who was involved. So when Miles Kavanagh came then to confess to Mallon, Mallon was able to give him the impression that he knew an awful lot more than he actually did, and give him the impression that somebody else had confessed. And that meant then that the pressure was on Miles Kavanagh then to reveal something that Mallon didn't know, to ensure that he would be protected from prosecution. And again, Inspector Mallon was very skilled at at playing these men and giving them the impression that somebody else had said something much more revealing than that they would, I suppose, have to up the ante in terms of what they knew. So we're out now in one of the small exercise yards of the jail, and again, according to accounts, when the men came to Kilmainham Jail, they were treated differently than the rest of the prison population, and they were given their own kind of small exercise yard to come and exercise in every day. And again, Mallon used to arrange for particular members of the group to find themselves here with other individuals in the hope that they might give themselves away. One of the stories about this exercise yard that they exercised in, and as I said, we're not quite sure which one of the small exercise yards they were in, was that one day they were exercising and this figure appeared through one of the doors, and it was a member of the Invincible organisation, but it was a man that they all thought was safely in hiding on the continent, and he suddenly appeared through the doorway of the exercise yard and was hastily pulled back as if he had come in by accident, but of course this was all very deliberate to let them know that the investigations of Inspector Mallon were going far and wide, and that maybe some of the people they thought were safe and beyond capture were actually already in his hands. There's also a very melancholy story associated with the exercise yard that the Invincibles were placed in. Apparently one of the men, a man called Henry Rouse, he suffered from epilepsy, and he started having a series of attacks when he was imprisoned here in Kilmainham, and he actually collapsed in the exercise yard one day and died. So that's it for today. In our next video we'll be looking again at Inspector Mallon's efforts to break the Invincible conspiracy, and I suppose his greatest prize, which was getting the leader of the conspiracy, James Carey, to confess and testify against the men he had recruited into the organisation. So until then, stay safe.